Everyone thought the CEO had fallen in love with the quiet single father. The office whispered, coworkers judged, and even strangers believed they were secretly a couple. But she never denied the rumors, because the truth was something no one could have imagined. What happened years earlier would leave an entire company speechless and bring grown adults to tears. Everyone in the office believed the elegant CEO and the quiet single father were secretly hiding a relationship. It started with small whispers near the coffee machine, then grew into full conversations behind glass doors. She was the powerful woman everyone admired but feared to approach. He was the calm, hard-working man who always left work on time to pick up his little daughter from school. Their worlds looked completely different, yet somehow they were always seen together. One smile, one shared lunch, one quiet conversation in the hallway was enough for people to create a story that neither of them had ever spoken. At first, the rumors were harmless. Some employees smiled when they saw them walking together. Others exchanged knowing looks whenever he entered her office. But soon, the gossip became sharper. People began asking why a CEO would spend so much time with an ordinary single father from her company. Some believed he was using her influence. Others thought she was giving him special treatment. No one cared to notice his late nights, his clean records, or the quiet dedication he gave to every project. They only saw what they wanted to see, and in their minds, the story had already been decided. The CEO heard the whispers, but she never corrected anyone. Her silence made the rumors even stronger. To the employees, it looked like she was protecting a secret. But the truth was much deeper than romance. Years earlier, before expensive suits, board meetings, and company power, she had been just another struggling young woman trying to survive in a cruel workplace. She had no strong connections, no powerful family name, and no one willing to stand beside her. Back then, one false accusation nearly destroyed her career before it even began. Everyone turned away, afraid to defend her. That was when the single father stepped forward. He was not rich, not powerful, and not important in the eyes of the company. He was simply a junior employee with a small daughter, a rented apartment, and enough problems of his own. But when he saw injustice, he refused to stay silent. He presented the truth, defended her name, and risked his own position to protect someone who could offer him nothing in return. He never asked for thanks. He never reminded her of what he had done. He simply believed that doing the right thing was more important than staying safe. She never forgot that day. While others remembered her success, she remembered the humiliation, the fear, and the one person who stood between her and complete defeat. Years passed, and she worked harder than anyone expected. She rose from assistant to manager, from manager to director, and finally became the CEO. People called her brilliant, strong, and unstoppable, but inside, she carried one promise: if she ever gained power, she would never become like those who had abandoned her. She would recognize loyalty. She would protect honest people. And above all, she would never forget the men who once protected her. When the single father later joined her company again, life had changed for both of them. He had become quieter, more tired, and more careful with his words. Raising a daughter alone had made him strong, but it had also made him lonely. He never used their past connection for favors. In fact, he avoided her office unless work required it. That humility only made her respect him more. She saw how he brought his daughter's school drawings in his bag, how he skipped lunch to save money, and how he still treated everyone with kindness, even when they looked down on him. So, when she invited him to charity events, it was not romance. It was respect. When she attended his daughter's school function, it was not a secret date. It was gratitude for a man who had once shown up for her when no one else did. When they shared lunch, it was often because she knew he had forgotten to eat while finishing someone else's work. But people rarely understand pure loyalty. They search for scandal because kindness feels too simple to believe. The more she helped him, the more the office twisted her intentions into something dramatic and shameful. Still, she chose silence. Not because the rumors were true, but because she refused to explain kindness to people committed to misunderstanding it. The single father once told her the gossip might damage her reputation, but she only smiled and said reputations built on fear are weak anyway. What mattered was character. What mattered was truth. Yet neither of them realized how dangerous gossip could become when mixed with jealousy. One afternoon, a senior executive called an emergency meeting, claiming favoritism was damaging the company's image. Everyone gathered, expecting a scandal. But that meeting was about to reveal a truth no one was prepared to hear. The truth finally surfaced during the company's annual family celebration, a night filled with bright lights, soft music, and smiling faces. Employees arrived with their spouses, children, and friends. All dressed beautifully for the biggest event of the year. But behind the laughter, one question moved from table to table: would the CEO finally reveal her relationship with the quiet single father? When he entered the hall holding his daughter's hand, the whispers grew louder. The CEO noticed every look, every smile, every hidden judgment, but she remained calm. Tonight, she had decided the truth would finally be spoken. As the evening continued, people watched them closely. If the CEO smiled at his daughter, someone whispered. If the single father thanked her for arranging a seat for his child, someone raised an eyebrow. Even the senior executive seemed interested, waiting for a dramatic announcement. The little girl, unaware of the gossip around her, looked amazed by the decorated hall and colorful balloons. She held her father's hand tightly, feeling proud to stand beside him. The single father, however, looked uncomfortable. He could feel the weight of every stare, but the CEO gave him a quiet look of reassurance. After dinner, the lights dimmed, and the CEO stepped onto the stage. The room fell silent almost instantly. She thanked everyone for their hard work and spoke about family, loyalty, and the people who help others rise without asking for anything in return. Some employees exchanged excited looks, believing this was the moment she would introduce him as her partner. Then she smiled gently and said there was one person in the room whose kindness had shaped the leader she had become. She invited the single father and his daughter to join her on stage. The hall filled with surprised murmurs. He hesitated at first, clearly unsure why she wanted him there. His daughter looked up at him with wide eyes, then pulled his hand with innocent excitement. Together, they walked toward the stage while hundreds of employees watched in complete silence. The CEO welcomed the child first, bending slightly to greet her with warmth. Then she turned toward the audience and began telling a story no one in that room had ever heard before. She spoke of a younger version of herself, a woman with no power, no protection, and no one willing to defend her when her career nearly collapsed. She explained how, years ago, a false accusation had almost destroyed her future. Many people had known the truth, but they stayed quiet because they feared losing their own positions. Then one man, with nothing to gain and everything to lose, stood up for her. He presented the facts, defended her reputation, and reminded everyone that silence in the face of injustice is also a choice. The CEO paused, her voice filled with emotion, then looked at the single father beside her. That man was him, she said. Suddenly, the entire hall became so quiet that even breathing felt loud. The employees who had laughed behind his back slowly lowered their eyes. The people who had called his promotions favoritism now realized how wrong they had been. The CEO made it clear that every position he had earned came from discipline, honesty, and excellent work, not from personal closeness. She mentioned his clean record, his late-night efforts, his kindness toward junior staff, and the way he balanced fatherhood with responsibility. The rumors that once sounded exciting now felt cruel and childish. No one had seen the full truth because they were too busy building a false story from incomplete moments. Then the CEO turned to his daughter and smiled. She told the little girl that her father was one of the rare people who proved that goodness still exists, even in places where people choose fear over courage. The child's eyes filled with tears, not from sadness, but from pride. She stepped forward and hugged the CEO tightly, whispering, "Thank you for believing in my daddy." That small sentence touched everyone more deeply than any speech could have. The single father looked away, trying to hide his emotions, but his trembling hands revealed how much that moment meant to him. By the end of the night, the atmosphere in the hall had completely changed. The gossip, judgment, and suspicion had been replaced by shame, respect, and quiet reflection. people finally understood that not every close bond is romance, and not every act of support hides a scandal. Sometimes, loyalty is born from gratitude. Sometimes, friendship becomes stronger because it was tested by hardship. And sometimes, the person everyone misunderstands is the one with the purest heart. That night, the CEO did not announce a love story. She revealed something far more powerful, a bond built on kindness, trust, and unforgettable respect.